Hey, gang, this is a real tough one. We did this podcast a while ago with Denise. And it was really, we knew what was coming and we knew it was too soon. Well, it came. And it's a very tough time for the family and close friends that went through this walk with her. It was a 5-year fight. And it's one of those things where you wait for that call, and it came. But it's also something that her kids need to know what an amazing, amazing mother, wife, woman their mom is. And for Ryan, who now has a memory of his wife, will always have to know that Denise will always, always be alive in our hearts, and her spirit will be with us. And she'll be cherished. Her strength and her fight, she never gave up. Never gave up. And her spirit will live on forever. But allow this this podcast for her children, whether they listen to it now or probably later in life as they get older. Your mom is freaking awesome. She's not gone. She knew where she was going. She was a woman of faith, a powerful spirit, and she'll always be there for you. She's an angel. And allow this moment for us to all honor her, and her memory will always live on. And God bless the family. God bless the children. And kids, know you have a tribe behind you. We're all here for you. You may not know it now, but remember this. Your family is loved by many, many people, and we are always here for you, especially when times get tough. But always lean on that faith that your mother had. And it doesn't always make sense to have faith and then to have to die young. It does not make sense. But to have an impact while you can. And when you walk by faith, somehow it makes it easier. And that's one of the toughest walks in life. So God bless you. Allow this podcast to just be able to let her voice ring in our ears forever. And what a powerful message and walk in life that Denise Dopps had. We love you. We love you. And God bless all here. All right, gang, we're going to jump right into this one. I'm really excited about this. This was inspired, and it's a big word with this young lady, is inspired, because she's constantly finding ways to get herself in spirit, to get connected. And we had a conversation that I said, we got to have that on the podcast because this is something that people must hear. So let's hear it for Dr. Denise Dopps, coming all the way from Wichita, Kansas. How you doing, darling?
Thanks. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
That looks like such an awesome room you are sitting in. It looks like I want a room like that. That looks like such a nice healing space. Where are you? That's great.
This is my dining room. I'm sitting at my table. So this is the place where my kids do art projects and homework, and we eat here sometimes.
What a great, it's like a 5-star hotel or something. That's beautiful.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So I don't know if we were at DE or where we were, and you and I were having a discussion, and we were talking about how people or how you or how we can process fear, which is like probably one of the most detrimental, feelings that we could go through. So why don't we open up with that? Where are we at with that?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's one of the most low vibration emotions you can feel. But it's part of the human condition. So we all face it. It's not something that is isolated to, just the weak or, certain races. It's definitely all of us, no matter how strong you are, but it's how you process that it really determines your entire life and your entire future. So about almost 2 years ago to the day, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And just a little background on fear, because, I feel like I have certainly a strong point, a strong case of dealing with fear after that. And when I first found out, I guess it took me a minute to find that fear. So I was, frantic. I was obviously fearful, but to get down to that base emotion of fear, um, you know, it's a very brave thing that you have to do. It's easy to distract yourself. It's easy to process the fear through like anger or confusion or frustration. And so as I've been going through this 2-year journey of bringing myself back to wholeness, I've really had to find a process of dealing with this fear, because unfortunately it's something that it wasn't just fearful that first time. I mean, it's something new comes up all the time that brings me back to that place of fear. So this process has helped me. It's really saving my life, and I'll explain why here in a minute. But so my process is find it, feel it, face it, and then replace it. So for example, if you're tomorrow, I'm leaving. I'm not sure when this will air, but it'll probably have already been done by the time. But tomorrow I'm leaving for the Mayo Clinic, and we're getting scans. I haven't had scans in maybe 4 months, so I'm due. But I've had some recent testing that didn't show great results. So this scan is going to show us maybe possibly where there's new growth. So as I approach this week coming up at Mayo, it's always very scary for me, but it always shows up as something else leading up to it. Like I'm short with my family, or I start eating junk food, or I'm constantly on my phone, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, compulsively shopping and things like that's just not me. And it just gives me that like hangover feeling. And so when I start to see that pattern happening, I have to really stop and find what is the base of these actions, these choices I'm making, and it's fear. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fear. And that's the first step, finding the fear and giving attention to your clues. So once I find it, the next step I go through is you feel it. You allow that feeling to be in your body. You allow the discomfort to take over you for a second, so you can feel the depth of it. Pay attention to it, both in your body and in your mind. Where in your body are you feeling this? But it requires you to get off your phone and stop watching TV and sit in your silence for a moment. And just even when I feel that fear, it's almost like a vibration in my body. I can physically feel it. So I don't know if you've ever had that experience of, feeling different vibrations of different emotions. Have you felt that before, Dr. Judson?
Come on, we're human, right? I mean, I think we'd be
Right.
lying. I think and I think that's one of the main things here is who hasn't.
Yes.
But you said it. We find other things, whether it's eating, drinking, shopping, getting on the phone, to distract us from feeling it. And I think that's huge. I mean, I took notes on that as you wrote it, is creating that consciousness to accept the vibration and say, okay, you're here right now, but now I got to feel it, right? Which is tough because we're trained not to feel anymore. Like if you feel anything, you take a pill, you drink something, you're replacing it, trying to get some feel good chemicals running through your body. Have I been there? My entire life I've been there. And I think this could be pivotal for people to learn this process that you're teaching right now.
I appreciate you saying that, but it's such a it's such an easy step. Like every step leads to the next. And I feel like every step is more and more freeing, and it's a higher and higher vibration. And, after you feel it and you just allow yourself to have that emotion, that human experience of fear. And that's really like facing it too. So then that's the next step, is facing it. Like, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen in this situation? So, for example, if we talk about my diagnosis, potentially in my reality, the worst thing that could happen is separation. Separation from my family and my kids, and experiences with my family in the future. But also facing it is asking the questions, can I trust our creator? Can I trust the process? If I do believe that we were created and divinely created and designed, isn't this, isn't that enough for me to trust that process? And that really goes back to all those foundational beliefs that, your worldview, ADIO, above, down, inside out. That's, a foundational belief for us, right? And, believing and trusting in that versus taking, and like you had said, taking something from the outside, to our phones or drugs or whatever to numb ourselves. That's the total opposite of that. So like believing that, this existence is exactly where I shall be, and where I'm supposed to be, and nothing will pass by me that was meant for me. I will always receive the gifts of our Father. And just changing our perspective on why we're having the fear. It's, where is that from, right?
So is it almost like well, one, you keep using the word vibration. How do you explain vibration to somebody? What is vibration?
In my life, I never really understood what like vibrational energy was, and people had talked about it. I just wasn't very connected, and I don't know why that was. I guess I just was filled with like a tension of protection to like actually feel these deep emotions of like gratitude and even like fear, like we had talked about. So the first time I had ever really allowed myself to like feel these vibrations, I had went to, in 2021, I had, my condition had gotten significantly worse, and it was a very tough time for me spiritually. So, my husband, Ryan, you guys are pals at DE. He said, you got to get out of here. Go to your place, go to your happy place. So he sent me to Hawaii for a month, and I spent lots of time praying and meditating. I did, Qigong. I, walked the beach every day. I swam in the ocean every day, even if it was cold or raining, I did it. And towards the end of this trip, I started really getting connected and starting to drop into meditations a lot easier, and starting to like really feel the presence of God in my life. And one of the last things I did for myself was sign up for this, what is it called? The sound.
Sound healing, or
Yeah, it was a sound therapy, with the sound bowls and the gongs. And I had only done maybe one or two before, but it just sounded like something peaceful for me to do, like to end this journey of facing my deepest fears, really. So I went to this sound bath, that is what it's called. I went to the sound bath, and it was outside under the stars, and it was extremely beautiful. And I was laying there, and I was just surrendering to the sounds. I was surrendering to nature. I looked up in the sky, and it was just filled with these beautiful stars. And I just felt gratitude like I had never felt before in my entire life. I just felt gratitude for life. I felt gratitude for the people who had allowed me to be there. There was a fundraiser that DE had started for me, a GoFundMe for this situation or situations like this. So I was feeling the deep gratitude for the people who, paused their life to enrich mine. And I just felt like a vibration, like a physical vibration run all the way to my toes, to my fingertips. It was one of the most peaceful, beautiful things I'd ever felt. And I felt so close to God in that moment. It's really it's just undescribable, what I felt in that moment. But I knew in that moment when I felt that vibrational, like that physical vibration run through me, I knew that was healing, and that it is the opposite of cancer. I just knew it. And, I came out of that, and I try to connect with that emotion of gratitude as often as I can. But then like I started playing with trying to feel like fear, like these vibrational feelings of fear. And I was able to do that. And, in have you ever studied Joe Dispenza work, or do you know of his work? He's a
Yes.
chiropractor. Okay.
Yep. Heck of a story.
Yeah, amazing work. And he talks about different vibrational levels in the body, and like these low vibrations moving up to these high vibrations, and how when you connect with these higher vibrations of gratitude and love and creativity, you're actually physically changing your cells to produce an outcome of that future. So it's all about just connecting with those different levels of vibration, and just being very, very conscious of what your thoughts are, and what vibration those are sending out as well. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
mean, it's hard to explain, but
no, I'm with you, and I think one of the things is to try to maybe spell it out with someone who's maybe having a tough time kind of processing some of this, because um, like I've studied a lot of this. I've been down the road where I had a life decision to make, and when you feel yourself, staring at that reality of, okay, and I liked how you used the word separated. I picked up on that. I mean, because I think the words we use will affect our vibration. And when I was going through the process myself, I basically told people how I expected them to talk to me, not talk to me, because I had to create that vibration of healing and also power. Like I didn't want anyone or anything taking away my power, which is so hard in this world because people do it without even realizing it. So you talked about, there's a couple of key things you said there, which I don't want to mess this up, but you talked about how things are going to happen around you, and you believe that it's part of the process. It's happening for a reason, and you recognize it. Because people will say, all right, you surrender and you have faith, which means you're surrendering to God, which is the greatest energy, the highest vibration. But why is this happening to me if I have that? And I go back to a specific point that I always think about when you, me, Ryan, a couple of people went out to a steak restaurant, and I was joking that you were going to eat the garnishes off my steak, like the parsley, because you guys, you're vegetarian, and we were joking about it. And then when you got diagnosed, I'm like, that's not fair. She's doing life better than me. And I was mad at God. I was like, you know what? Like I've made more mistakes than this poor young girl. And I go back to that time in that, I don't know if you remember that. It was a steakhouse. It was a beautiful place. And we had this interaction that I always go back to. But it's like, why? Like, how do you deal with that? And I know people are dealing with it.
oh gosh, I know it's one of those things where I wish the answers were easier, but they're never easy. It's never
Right.
easy. And I still struggle with that. I was even, as I mentioned, I'm heading to the Mayo Clinic tomorrow, and I just still think, why me? Why is this happening to me? And like, if I could do anything to take it away, I would. But it's those living it, I feel like that's like living in that past, that past tense, that past reality, that can only point to a future that that past reality would point to.
Right.
So if I'm, living in that fear, then that will be the path that I take. And I've mentioned this before, and I think we've talked about it. I wasn't sure whether or not to take a certain therapy at one time. And I meditated, and I was looking for an answer within, and I was just trying to weigh my options. And I just couldn't come up with anything. And I couldn't feel settled on either doing it or not doing it. And I just surrendered to the process, and I meditated, and I just completely let it go. And I asked God to just reveal any sign to me if I should take this therapy. And in that moment, I was taken back to an appointment with the person that would be administering this therapy. And I looked into his eyes, and I remember this is exactly what happened. I looked into his eyes, and there was just no hope there. And I immediately came out of the meditation, and I had my answer. And I knew that I cannot follow a path where the person leading it doesn't have hope for the future I want. It's his vision for my future is not my vision for my future. So there's no way I can go to this lane and expect to end up over here. It's like that where they say the compass, if you're off just by 1 degree, you end up in 2 different destinations. So I think, having those fears is totally normal. That, why me? How did this happen to me? And feeling that it's unfair. But if you just take that and maybe see it through like the creator's eyes, who's filtering my entire life, this is here for me, right? So just switching that over a little bit is going from one lane to the other lane, and it's a different destination.
Yeah. Yeah. So you go from find it, feel it, face it, and then
Yes,
replace.
replace it. So we were talking about the vibrational levels, and if I'm feeling that fear, I want to replace that low vibration with a higher vibration, because that's how you create that future and a different reality. So I always replace it with gratitude, only because that was revealed to me at the time that was what's healing me. I think high vibration feeling like love, or any high vibrational energy, you could probably replace it with. I just use gratitude, because I feel like gratitude is the ultimate state of receiving, right? So if you can replace fear with gratitude, then you're going to be receiving exactly what God has planned for your life, or the universe, however you believe. So it moves you towards that future that you want to create versus the past.
So essentially, one of the big things, because you've said it a couple of times, is knowing what you want to create. So
yeah.
how does an individual get to a place? Let's say someone's not even diagnosed. It would make sense to follow this protocol. How do they know what to create? What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think people do struggle with, where are you saying what to create, like what type of future to create, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, because if we go back to vibration, and we live in this world that throws a vibration within us, and now we want to, people, I believe in their heart, want change. They just don't know what action steps to take, right? So to give them guidance to say, if you're not happy where you are right now, and that creates a state of fear, which is where they live. I would say many, many people live there. but they say, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, I've had this conversations 1,000 times in the office. They don't know what to do. It's really bringing them to a place of, well, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
Super. Yeah. Be super specific, right?
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, but I think people don't give them the space until they're hit with something, right? You wake up, you don't feel well, you go to the doctor and you walk out like, uh-oh, now what? And now you got a decision to make. The way you've handled this is monumental. And I think it's giving people almost a blueprint, because one, you could have become a victim, right? You could have taken, instead of it being a dream, it could have been looking in the doctor's eyes, and you put yourself in that vibration, who had no hope, and you still listened to him because he was the authority. But you came to a point realizing he's not the authority, God's my authority, and that's the vibration I'm going to listen to, is what I'm hearing.
That's exactly it.
So how can we give people hope, faith, a space to look towards that vibration for
Right.
themselves?
Right. So I feel like a lot of people surrender to the emotions of the past instead of in the present, which is that this moment that we have at this very moment we're living is this complete power we have. We're making decisions in our mind right now that are going to affect our future. So just getting super specific on what you want, and just, does this belong in my future, right? And just being extremely specific about what future you want, what you'll allow, and you stay in that vibration. What would it feel like? What is it going to feel like for me and my family to have overcome this? What feelings am I going to experience, and bringing that to the current day and like living that, and that programs those cells to just produce. And we know this, our environment will change our chemical reactions in our bodies. So if you create an environment that is, coherent with the future you want, your cells are reacting to it. It's all the epigenetics that they talk about, and how, just we're like I guess like 300 genes away from being a chimpanzee, right? So it's like, what expression do you want to give your cells today that will bring you to that very specific future, and stay out of the past, stay out of what people tell you is the truth. It's not aligned with your truth. So you can't entertain that. You just have to move forward and, just keep reaching for those emotions.
Yeah, because I think, it all started with fear, right? So I think that unknown creates the deepest fear, right? Because it's uncertainty and it's a not knowing. But I think if we go back to our foundation on how powerful the body really is, and our human spirit, and how our thought process, which is why listening, I think if people listen to this 2 or 3 times, the words that you're using are powerful, because you're telling your body how to think, how to operate, which will affect you and have affected you on a cellular level, which is why you've beat this thing, which is why someone could look at you and say, there's nothing wrong with this girl, right? Because you're not seeing anything wrong with with yourself.
Yes, that's exactly it. I love how you say that, because I don't. And it's hard to see. Sometimes I look at people and they'll tear up, and they'll, be like, I'm just so, and I'm like, what? I can't
Yeah.
recognize what they're seeing. I'm like, I don't get why you're sad right now. And I get it. I get it, but like my first initial reaction is confusion by that, because I can't relate to that.
Yeah, and you can't relate to it because and I've been bringing this up quite a bit. There's an amazing book by a medical doctor, "The Hidden Messages in Water," and it shows you water molecules under a microscope, how they perform to vibrations, whether it's angry words, beautiful music, bad music, and it changes the cell structure of the water molecule under the microscope. And man, when I saw that, this is where you're saying to bring yourself
Beautiful.
to recognize that, yeah, I found it. I found, and this to me is what the backpack's been about, is finding your thing, feeling it. Do I like this feeling? Yes or no? If no, then I need to face that. But the action step is, what am I going to replace this with? And this is what you said, what does life look like with my family, with this journey I'm doing, by replacing it with healing and vitality and health. And so once you replace it, that's where you focus your energy. You create that
Mhm.
vibration. And now you're telling your cells and your neurology, this is how we're going to adapt. This is how you will perform, and we will overcome, because our body's powerful, which is why you're 2 years past this thing, cranking it. And I think when people look at this on YouTube, they're like, this girl's absolutely gorgeous. Like, her vibration is screaming off the screen, but it's because you've worked. Like, and it's amazing. And knowing Brian the way, Ryan, the way I do, and how you guys faced your fear, because I know him as well had to do that. And then creating that space for him to say, honey, go find your happy place, Hawaii, and just go get lost in the emotion of it, face it, and now create the healing process, which is what you guys have done. And if we could teach people to learn how to do that right where they are, that's why I look at this room you're sitting in. I mean, I feel like so at peace just looking at this environment. Like, as a human being, we need to create this where we are as well, and then allow ourselves to go to a space. For me, it's Sedona, Arizona, the Red Rock Mountains. I keep saying I'm going to go there on a 10-day fast and just walk in the heat of the day and just sweat and walk and talk to the universe. And that's coming soon. But I don't think,
Beautiful.
but I really don't believe society's been shown that way. You and I have discovered it by getting around people like Dispenza and people that have been through a tough healing process, that we have to find it to create our future. And that's what you've done. But what people can learn from this is to create that space in your life right now, and to take the action of creating what you want, which is what you've done. I'm sorry to be talking so much, but
Mm.
you have inspired me.
Oh, Dr. Judson, your words are so beautiful, and you're so inspiring in every way. Like what you and your family are, who you are and what you give. It's just, we just adore you. So I love hearing your words, and just hearing you vibrating on that same frequency. It's really great. And I appreciate that time.
I think one of the knee jerk reactions for people in this situation is like, yeah, we absolutely love you and we're praying for you, but I don't keep praying for somebody. One things I've learned is I say a prayer and I see it done. And as a
Yeah.
family, even my kids, who, when you spent that time at our house, when you came up for the wedding, they're like, she's awesome. And I said, do you guys see her fully healed? They said, absolutely done. Now it's not sitting in a circle praying, praying, praying. I see it as it's done, and you're taking the action and it's happening. And I think as a society, that's the greater level of healing that I want to operate in, to create a vibration of just complete abundance and beauty for you, which is what your vibration is. I mean, you're just a pillar of strength that is transforming lives around you. With some, you won't even know it. A lot of these people that are crying, looking at you, because they're wondering if they would have that strength that you have. That's why they're crying, I think.
Mm.
And things like this conversation now is going to give them action steps to say, well, what if I just find what I can right now in my life, and feel it? Because we're trained not to feel, just feel it. Face whatever that thing is head on now, and now create our destiny here on out for our life, to affect every cellular, tissue, water molecule, neurological output that's going on from above down, inside out. And that's what you're showing people, girl.
Mm. I love how you say that. That's spot on. And that water study, I've seen the pictures that you were talking about. It's incredible. It's like, that is words. That words create. They're magic, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, listen, girl, you're absolutely, uh, your words are the most beautiful here. Your walk is the most beautiful here. Your visit at that fancy little clinic you're going to is going to be exactly what it's supposed to be, and beautiful. It's just you're going through the process.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, and I'm proud to call you a friend and to be on the spiritual journey with you. So thank you, girl.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I have so much gratitude for what you're doing for all of us. Thank you.
Absolutely. And this right here, this conversation, you're going to open up hearts and help transform thousands and thousands of lives. So thank you.
Mm,
All right,
I'm
girl.
glad to be of service.
You're blessed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Judson.
You got it.